started dating a man I had met on the internet at age 23. His name was Jordan. I had just moved to Portland for a new job and thought it would be nice to find someone. We had 4 dates over about a month and a half. At first, things were pretty much normal. Our first date was low-key, a quick visit to a little coffee store near my office. We chatted for about 45 minutes, long enough to get a feel for each other. To be honest, it was a casual screening rather than a real date. I wanted to gauge if he would do before taking up much more of my time. He was polite, laughed at my jokes, and spoke of his job in marketing. I left that coffee shop thinking, okay, maybe he's worth a second date. The second time I met him, we went out for drinks at a tiny, cozy pub not far from the city center. It was relaxed, and we both got a little buzzed. It wasn't deep or anything, but it was nice. I remember leaving that night thinking that while we didn't quite have that spark, he was nice to be around. Our interactions were easy enough, and I kept reassuring myself it was too soon. The third date was dinner at a nice restaurant by the water. It was on this date that I started to get the feeling that something was off. There wasn't anything in specific, but I started noticing little things. The way he spoke about people, cold, impersonal, even judging. His stories had an odd edge to them, and his sense of humor occasionally crossed over into dark, uncomfortable territory. It wasn't a bad date, but I went into the night unsure. We kissed at the end of the night, our only. It wasn't a thrilling or passionate kiss, but I let it go. I think I used the kiss as a means of telling myself that everything was fine. A couple weeks later, we went on our fourth and final date. It was drinks again, one more time, at a second pub in the Pearl District. But tonight was not like the other nights from the start. I was no longer excited. Something inside me had changed. I was more vigilant, more cautious, and started noticing more of the odd mannerisms I had dismissed as simple eccentricity. His body language was off, too stiff at times and then suddenly too aggressive. His jokes no longer merely appeared to be dark, they appeared to be cruel. And tonight he drank a lot more than ever. He also became a bit too touchy, trying to kiss me more than once since we were still at the bar. I do not like showing affection in front of people, much less in a crowded place. I excused myself each time and politely declined. I even mentioned being tired with the hope that he would catch on. Lastly, I informed him that I had to go home, clearly saying I wasn't in the mood to continue. He paid the bill and we put on our coats. As we walked to our cars, which were parked in separate lots close by, he simply stopped and asked bluntly if I would like to go home with him. I said no to him, that I had to get up early to work. An excuse, yes, but a strong one. He continued to press, suggesting I call in sick, or telling me he didn't think I'd get any work done anyway tomorrow. Drunk or sober, I was finished. I headed out to my car, parked on the opposite side of the street, and began driving home. I wasn't drunk, but I'd had enough to make me very cautious, so I was moving slowly and keeping an eye on the road. That's why I'm certain that I did see the car behind me. It followed each of my turns, 3 in a row, which seemed too close to be coincidence. At a stoplight, I looked in my rearview mirror and recognized that it was her car, I believe, Jordan's car. I sent him a text. "Are you following me?" He replied almost at once, "Yeah, just making sure you make it home all right." That didn't sit right at all. I called him, but he didn't answer. I pulled over and sent another text, instructing him to stop following me, that I was all right. I saw his car slow down in the middle of the road, probably to read the text, and then it sped away. Later that night, when I was home in bed, he texted again, "Hope I didn't creep you out. Sorry I got so wasted. Next time maybe we can keep it relaxed, like over dinner at my place or something." I did not reply. The next morning, he texted, "Oh no, is the vibe killed?" I still didn't reply, hoping that silence would get the point across. Barely 2 hours had elapsed when he sent one question mark. I then chose to reply before things became more uncomfortable. I replied, "Hi, I had a great time getting to know you and hanging out with you, but I just don't think our personalities fit. I also need to sort myself out right now. Hope you understand." It was then that the tirades began. The worst of them stated, "No, I don't get it. You strung me along for 4 dates just to tell me that? How about you pay me back half of all that I spent on you back then?" Other messages arrived, full of personal abuse and references to things I had told him. I didn't copy them here, but they were bad enough that I blocked his number immediately. I figured it was over then. But the next day, I started getting calls on a no-caller ID number, again and again and again. I didn't answer a single one. They eventually stopped. The following day, I came back from work to an empty house. My parents had left, and there was a bouquet of flowers on the front porch. With it, a card. From Jordan. An apology. A plea for second chance. He knew my address. I was shocked. My home with my parents was not a shared experience between us. He had to have looked at my social media, or maybe found some hint I didn't even realize that I had left for him. Whatever the case, it was not sweet. It was terrifying. I texted him for the final time, a long message, advising him to never call me again, never come over to my house again, or I'd obtain a restraining order. I blocked him again and never received his reply. I thought that would be the last time I ever heard from him. I was wrong. One night, still while my parents were not home, I awoke around 2 a.m. I did not know why. A mysterious feeling. And then I was able to hear the faint creaking sound in the downstairs level. I sat up more upright and listened more carefully. That is when I knew I was hearing the creaking of an open door, not downstairs, but upstairs. No one was supposed to be around. My heart dropped. I crawled out of bed and underneath it. Underneath the bed, I retrieved my phone and whispered into it as I called 911. I also texted my family desperately. "Is anyone home?" No response. I heard someone walking upstairs, then the slow creaking of my bedroom door. The carpet muffled the footsteps, but I caught the sound of the drawers opening in my nightstand. My heart was pounding. I covered my mouth to keep from breathing too hard. I heard a man whisper, "God damn it." It sounded like Jordan. He just kept digging in my dresser. Then the bed creaked softly as he sat on it. I was frozen. I could see his shoes from beneath my bed, inches away from my face. He just sat there, just sitting. For 2 or 3 minutes, in silence. Then he muttered an oath. He stood up, closed the drawers, and climbed back downstairs. I was still in a standoff under the bed, talking quietly to the 911 operator. About 10 minutes later, a police officer came. I opened the front door for him, shaking. Another officer, a female, showed up shortly. They did a walkthrough of the entire house and found all the windows open. The window into the dining room was partially open, wide enough for a human to go through. I showed them everything I had, including text messages from Jordan admitting to stalking me that evening. I received a report number, and the officers were gone. When my parents returned home, we went right to the police station and explained everything to them. Screenshots, call history, text history. The officers promised to investigate, but that without solid proof that he was the one who was in there, it would be tough to charge him. I managed to obtain a restraining order anyway. I was warned never to contact him again, or even to charge him with burglary, unless I had concrete proof. He never tried anything more after that, praise God. But up to the day I moved away from my parents' house, I slept with a queasy unease. I'd double-check the locks 3 times each night, peer through the windows whenever a car drove by too slowly. Even years later, sometimes I find myself wondering if he'll ever find out where I live again. And if so, what happens then? I was in 7th grade when it started, in the autumn of 2013. My school, Ridgeview Middle School, was hosting a Halloween festival, and I lingered behind in class to help decorate the haunted labyrinth that they had constructed in the gym. It was something I looked forward to every year, spending pizza money, playing around with my friends, and getting out late after school made the location feel like a whole different world. Just us kids, free in a sense of liberty. There was one kid who consistently stuck around after school too. His name was Ryan. He wasn't friends with me, but he would sometimes volunteer for the decorating crew. We joked about the same things and chatted when no one else was present. He never made me nervous. If anything, he seemed a bit quiet, a bit shy, but approachable. I never gave him a second thought. He was just another kid who was assisting. 2 weeks had passed, and everything was different. Some girls from my grade came running up to me during homeroom, all giggling. They said that I had a secret admirer who would send me a message that night. They were both laughing like in a rom-com film. And I'll give them credit, I was nervous and curious. Who wouldn't be? I was a kid, and the idea that someone had a crush on me was a big deal. That night, while I was relaxing and getting ready for bed, my phone lit up with a messenger notification. It was the only way I used Facebook at the time, actually, in order to stay in contact with my parents while I was home alone. The message came from Ryan. I'd forgotten that I'd asked him to become a friend on Facebook when Halloween rolled around. It was a simple message, just, "Emily, I need to talk to you." I was worried initially. There was something in the tone that didn't feel funny anymore. I responded, asking what had happened. I still regret it. For a few moments, the typing bubble remained on the screen, much longer than usual. When the message did appear, it was a huge paragraph that made my stomach sit heavy with worry. He wrote from the heart in a passionate manifesto, how he had loved me since Halloween, how he had tried to impress me by posing in gym class, and how I'd never so much as spared him a second look. He told me it was killing him to be ignored, and finished by asking if I'd be his girlfriend. I recall reading it over and over again, not knowing how to even react. It actually made me feel really uneasy. We barely knew each other. I hadn't spoken to him other than at those after-school gatherings. I wanted to let him down gently, so I explained that I wasn't interested in going out and would just like to be friends. He reacted badly. He kept on repeating, "Why?" again and again, and I kept giving him reasons that I had to think of on the spur of the moment. Finally, he fell silent. I hoped it was the end of it. But the following day was a disaster. Some of his friends, all guys I hardly even knew, spoke to me in the hall, telling me that Ryan was going to kiss me. He'd told the entire grade he was going to do it and didn't care if I wanted him to or not. I became scared. It wasn't a joke, it was a threat. I told my teacher, and she told me to stay in class during recess and lunch, and to run back if I ever caught him heading my way. That wasn't enough. I went and talked to the principal and explained the whole situation to him. He said he would take it seriously and address it. That relieved me somewhat. For a little while things were okay. I was careful, stayed away from him, and walked home in groups with friends when I could. I should note, my house was just on the other side of the street from school, and everybody knew that, as well as Ryan. Then something strange happened. I returned from school on foot one day and had just entered when there was a knock on the door. My senses were heightened, and I peered out of the living room window. I saw someone run behind a vehicle parked across. It was Ryan. I was sure of it. My mom opened the front door to see a piece of paper folded up on the mat with my name on it. The message was simple. It had written that there was something hidden under the old SUV in our driveway, my brother's car. My mom checked, but nothing was underneath. Funnily enough, soon after that, the SUV malfunctioned. My brother never got to know what had happened, and he had sold it. Up until today, I wonder if Ryan had done something to it, and the thought makes me sick. Things continued to worsen. Ryan's friends kept bothering me, telling me to give him a chance. They told me he'd treat me like royalty and hoped I was being cruel to turn him down. I was walking home one afternoon when I heard a sound behind me, a soft snap, like a camera shutter. I whipped around quick and caught Ryan holding his phone. He'd been taking pictures of me. I don't even want to think about how many he already had. Every day, every morning, I was getting messages from him, like, "Can't wait to see you today," or "You'll look lovely." It was never ending and intrusive. He was tracking my movements. He knew where I lived. It was no longer uncomfortable. I was scared. Then one day, I received a call to the counselor's office. I thought, at last, someone is going to do something. Maybe Ryan would be suspended. Maybe his parents would be called in. Something else altogether occurred. What I was told was unbelievable. The counselor told me boys will be boys, and at times they do stupid things when they are in love. She told me I should feel complimented, that this was something that girls go through and I need to learn to accept it and leave it behind. I did not know what to reply. I was 12 years old. I believe she was correct. Then I went home and told my mom all about it. She was furious. The next day, I got called to the principal's office again, but this time my mom came with me. She gave them a tongue lashing. I remember her saying, "What are you waiting for? Something bad to happen to her before you do anything about it." The principal and counselor were in silence. She ended by telling the counselor that she would never say a word to me except when she was present. But I don't think the school ever punished Ryan. Nothing was done. The other night when my parents were out shopping, I was in bed watching YouTube on my tablet and I heard something bang against my bedroom window. I was on the second floor, so that was right away frightening. It kept happening over and over again, like somebody was throwing things. I got up and peeked out the window. My stomach dropped. Ryan stood in the backyard, looking up, with a bunch of small rocks in his hand. He had figured out which window was mine. I didn't hang around to see why he was there. I bolted back to make sure all the doors and windows were locked. Fortunately, they were. When I got back to my room, I had 4 new messages. They said to me, "Why did you go?" "I just want to talk." "Sorry, I only wanted a kiss." "You are not what I thought you were. Goodbye." I blocked him immediately. That was the last time that I ever directly confronted Ryan, although I did have to encounter him for years thereafter, through middle school, through high school. We never spoke again. The last thing that I ever heard about him was that he got arrested a year after graduation. I never found out what it was for. What I resent the most, more than Ryan, is what that counselor said to me, that this was a compliment, something I should leave with. I was a child, and someone tried to make it a normal thing to be harassed and stalked. I hope that woman never works with children again, and I hope I never see Ryan again. I've lived quietly, in secret. Even now, I don't wish my name tied to this story. What they did to me wasn't just scary. It traumatized me. I have PTSD because of it. So I've changed all names and locations in this account. I want attention, just a means to finally relate at what happened. Take me back. My name is Noah, and I live in a small corner of Oregon, a small town called Woodvale. I was not the sort of person to be around others even when I was a kid. My teachers indicated in grade school that I didn't quite connect with other kids. They told me that I had antisocial behavior problems, and my parents enrolled me in a few 20-minute special classes that were going to fix speech and behavior. Then, for no reason that I knew, I was taken out of class and left behind with my peers. It only served to make me feel more alone. It only continued in middle school. That's when the social pecking order of school really did start to become established. Cliques, groups, it was like everyone else knew to do it but me. I wasn't having a problem in school. I just couldn't fit in. High school was a repeat of the same. I made it through, more or less, by keeping to myself. Later on, I eventually did improve socially, enough to make a couple of real friends by my early 20s, but I still see myself as an introvert, maybe even as being awkward. And naturally, dating was tough. I actually didn't really date in high school. I lost my virginity in my 21st year, which I know was a little late for everyone else, but it mattered to me. I was out of my parents' home by age 23. I worked as a good software engineer, earning a respectable amount of money. I bought a townhouse in Woodvale. It was a 2-story home, reasonably priced but high status for someone my age. Big enough that I felt like I'd accomplished something. I figured it would be a confidence builder. I was just swiping on Tinder one night, and I matched up with a girl named Mia. She was adorable in her photos. nothing outrageous, and seemed friendly. We went out the first time at a small spot close to me called Rusty Fork. The whole time, I was in my own mind, fearing she'd find me awkward or boring. I assumed for sure. Sure enough, she'd ghost me afterwards. But that night, in bed, she texted saying she'd had an amazing time and liked me. That text injected a shot of adrenaline into me that I hadn't experienced in years. We kept dating. Second date, third, fourth, and before long we were a couple. For a while, all was good. That thing when you first get with someone, you're excited for every text message, every little exchange. But slowly, things shifted. I started to see she'd text me too much, way more than usual. Morning, afternoon, night, she'd be like, "Where are you?" And if I didn't answer right away, she'd add question marks or even call. Initially, I tried to tell myself that it was because she had a lot of affection for me. One evening, just watching television on my couch and hanging out together, she gazed at me and insisted that we share phone locations. I wasn't pleased. I did not have anything to hide, but somehow the line seemed to be being crossed. However, I acquiesced. That was when everything changed. She began using the location sharing feature constantly. If I was at my friend Jesse's place and I didn't reply fast enough, she would ask me why I was there. One Friday night, I was hanging out with Jesse and another friend Tyler in Jesse's basement. Then Mia shows up at the house. Jesse's mom even brought her down. She was mad, barely controlled it. She insisted that I explain why I was not responding to her texts regarding a vineyard date the following day. I requested that we discuss it later, but she refused and said that I should leave with her. I apologized to my friends and left to speak with her. She asked to go home with me, but I refused. We both drove apart. When I got back home, I sent her a lengthy message informing her that I required space and that we should go our separate ways. Should I have done it face to face? Yes. But in all honesty, I was fearing how she would react. She phoned and messaged me constantly that evening. When I didn't respond, she turned up at my door. She buzzed it over and over again, knocked. My neighbor, Mr. Riley, came out and explained to her very nicely that she needed to go away. I overheard it all with my ear against the door. She did leave in the end, but I was shaken. The next day, I made sure to stop sharing my location with her. Less than 10 minutes later, she texted me angrily, as if she had been checking it constantly. I was more sure than ever that I needed to block her out. My final message to her was simple. "I'm sorry, Mia. I need to block you for a while. You're freaking me out." She didn't return that day. She didn't ring the doorbell, didn't knock, but she stopped sending her location as well. A week later to the minute, I was over at Jesse's, just hanging out like in the good old days. I left at 11 p.m., went home, and for some reason felt a small pang of hunger. I nuked a frozen burrito and sat on the couch watching horror movies. When the microwave beeped, I heard a click, something in the dining room. My downstairs townhouse was oddly shaped, more or less a circle. Kitchen to dining room to living room to den. The den had a door, not just an open frame. I turned off the television and listened. I swear I heard the den door creak open. My flesh ran cold. I called out softly, whispering whether or not someone was there. No response. I crept into the dining room, racing heart, and noticed the door wide open. I never left my doors open. Never. I rushed to the kitchen and grabbed the biggest knife I could and called 911. I told them that I thought my ex-girlfriend had broken in. I yelled it out, hoping the person inside could hear me. The dispatcher told me to stay outside, so I did. A cop rushed in. I showed him through the house, and we checked any area where a child could be hiding. Closets, crawl space, attic, under the bed, everywhere. Nothing. The cop didn't tell me I was hallucinating. He simply told me to call if anything else happened. After he left, I tried to simmer down. I ate the burrito and went up, locked my door. I sent a few messages, Jesse, Tyler, even my cousin Maddie, just to put it out there. Everyone said it was strange. Maybe something just rolled on its own. I almost texted Mia, but I caught myself. I had taken a melatonin and was eventually asleep. But I am a light sleeper, and the buzz of my phone woke me up. A series of texts from an unknown number. It was her. Mia. She was begging me to meet her the next day, apologizing, sending back-to-back messages of wake up 8 times actually. No calls, only messages. I told her, "Why are you up at this time? This is crazy. Seriously, you've made me see that I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Leave me alone." Less than a second after sending it, I heard a voice scream from inside my bedroom closet. It was Mia. She cried out, "No!" And then she tore out. She was hiding there the whole night long. I did not think. I sprang out of bed, threw open my door and ran into the hall. I slammed it behind me and I gripped it. She leaped at the door. A knife slit through. One of the thrusts cut across my side. I yelled in horror, something I didn't even mean. I cried out, "Baby, I love you, stop!" And she did. She calmed down. Although I still had the door in my hand, I again called 911 quietly. I whispered on the phone and talked to her on the other side of the door. I said I was struggling, but I still cared for her, that I was going back to her. She said, "That's all I wanted to hear. Why couldn't you just be honest with me?" She instructed me to open the door. I told her I would, but only if she put down the knife. I finally heard it strike the wall and fall on the floor. I bursted the door open and pinned her down. She screamed and flailed, completely hysterical. I pinned her down, yelling my address into the phone. Seconds later, the police burst in, busting through my front door. The ruckus alone shook the house. They rushed in, subdued Mia, and handcuffed her. She was baying uncontrollably. I didn't cry. I was frozen, completely in shock. That night changed everything. The subsequent legal procedure was long and painful. Mia was finally convicted on various serious charges. It didn't feel right to me, not even when I watched her being sentenced. I had endured so much with her. I believed that I loved her, and she tried to kill me. Even now, I wonder how I didn't see the signs. Maybe it was my need to impress her. Maybe my own lack of self-worth clouded my thinking. Whatever, I've learned my lesson the hard way. I'll have this with me for the rest of my life. But maybe, even anonymously, publishing this can save someone else.